All right, guys, so today we are talking about perimeter and equations. So yesterday you guys talked about angles and how angles, having missing values in your angles, you can create equations to kind of solve those. It is the same with perimeter, okay? So when you are working with perimeter, sometimes you have a missing value in your perimeter problem, and you can use equations to help solve those, okay? So our target for today is I can create equations to help solve perimeter problems with missing values. So go ahead and pause the video, write down your title, your target, and your date. All right, you guys, so perimeter, hopefully you remember that perimeter is the outside of an object, okay? So if you have, for example, a triangle, okay, if you have a triangle, the perimeter is this outside of the triangle. Now we know that volume is the inside of, or I'm sorry, area is the inside of this triangle. Volume is 3D, this is 2D, and perimeter is the outside, okay? So the outside of this figure, so they will give you, for example, they might give you 8, and 10 here, okay? And you know to find the perimeter of this shape, you are going to add all sides, okay? You're going to add all of those sides. So 10 plus 8 plus 8. 10 plus 8 plus 8 will give you your total perimeter, okay? So this is your total. So with that being said, I can now add these. 10 plus 8 is 18. 18 plus 8 is 26. So I know my perimeter is 26, okay? When you are working with perimeter questions, they sometimes will give you the total, just like when we are working with those algebraic word problems. They give you the total, but there's something missing, okay? So when you're working with perimeter and equations, you're going to create an equation and use a variable to represent the missing, okay? So for example, let's say they tell me that I have a square, okay? I have a square, and that one of the sides of my square is 8x plus 8, okay? And then they're giving me the total perimeter of 72. Okay, so they're telling me that the total is 72. Okay, so once again, they give you the total. They give you some of this part right here, but they have something missing. There's a missing value. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep this same concept of adding all my sides to equal my total, but we're going to take into account this missing value. So if this is a square, this is x plus 8. What is this also? X plus 8, x plus 8, x plus 8. So what I could do is take all of my sides and add them together. So I could say x plus 8 plus x plus 8. That's 2 sides. 3 sides, 4 sides. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides that are x plus 8 because this is a square. And then I have my total, which is 72. So this is one of the equations that I could use to solve, okay? Now, since this is a square and all 4 sides are the same, I could also say those 4 sides times x plus 8. Okay, so I can take the one side and multiply it by 4. This would equal still 72. This is another equation that could help me solve. Okay, so once again, a lot of things that we do, it's not just being able to solve this, but it's also representing these equivalent expressions or equivalent equations that would represent this. Okay, so we've kind of talked about without the equation part of it, how these two things would represent that square. Okay, these two expressions represent that square's value. Now, what do we notice about these two expressions? I'm hoping that you're noticing that they're not in simplest form, okay? So let's simplify these. There's two ways I can do it. I can do it just with this expression up here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's, so I know it's going to be 4x. 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 8 is 24. 24 plus 8 is 32. So in simplest form, this would be 4x plus 32. Now if I simplify this one, since these are equivalent, it's going to be the same. So 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times 8 is 32. So once again, just like we've talked about simplifying and solving, I'm going to have this in simplest form before I can solve it. So this one is important because it is simplified. So creating these equations are great, but making sure that it's in simplest form before you solve is important. Okay, so these are my equivalent expressions. All of these are equivalent expressions. This one, and this one. I'm going to highlight those so you can see that the equivalent expressions are right here. Okay? Now I've created an equation out of it because they've given me the total. So now that I have this, I can solve 4x by doing my two-step equations. Okay? So what's my first step here? I need to get rid of this addition, right? So I'm going to get rid of addition by using subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. That's going to eliminate it here and leave me with 72 minus 32, which is 40. And I'm left with 4x on this side. Okay? So then now what do I need to do to solve? I've got multiplication. What do I do to get rid of multiplication? I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. That's going to eliminate it on this side and leave me with x. 40 divided by 4 equals 10. So x equals 10. Okay, and I can plug it back in here and say 10 plus 8 equals 18. 18 times 4. 32. 4 times 3 is 72. So I know that I've done it correctly. Okay, checked with substitution. All right, so that is one type of problem where they'll give you the actual shape here and then they'll give you the total. Another thing that they might do, and let's put this on this side. Oh, let me pause real fast. I know that some of you guys might need to pause and catch up. Okay, so let's go over here and let's do a problem. Sometimes they might say the length of a rectangle is 2 times the width. The perimeter is 80. All right, so here we are. Find the length of a rectangle. The length of a rectangle is 2 times the width. The perimeter is 80. Find the width of the length. Find the width and the length. I can talk today. So you're going to get problems like this where they're kind of explaining everything to you, and you've got to kind of create this shape. For me, every single time I'm going to draw this out. So I know I'm talking about a rectangle, so I'm going to draw a rectangle. Then I know that I put together what I know, okay? So one of these is completely missing. So what is completely missing? It says that the length of the rectangle is 2 times the width. So we know a little bit about the length, but we know nothing about the width, okay? So I'm going to find what is completely missing here and assign it a variable. So my width is W, and I know that I know nothing about the width, so I'm going to put that there. I do know something about the width, the length though. It's 2 times the width. So how can I show 2 times the width of this? 2 times W. Or I could have said W plus W. That would be width 2 times. It doesn't matter how you show that, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, I'm going to show it with multiplication, especially since it says times. And all of that equals 80. Okay, so I'm creating that rectangle. I'm finding what I know nothing about and then putting together what I know something about. Okay, and this is going to take a lot of practice. We're not going to know exactly what to do every single time. It's called problem solving, and you've kind of just got to make sure that you're thinking, okay, what's completely unknown? I'm going to create a variable for that and then piece together what you do know from that variable. Okay, we're going to see lots of examples this year, so do not expect to become a complete pro at this right away. Okay, it takes some practice. All right, so I do know my total. It's 80. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the right side of my equal sign. Then I do know that I am going to do this side plus this side. If this side is 2W, so this side is 2W. So plus 2W plus this side, which is W, plus this side, which is 2W. Okay, so I'm creating an equation to match this word problem. Then I'm going to simplify. Okay, so I'm going to say W plus 2W plus W plus 2W. Well, remember this has a 1 in front of it, so how many W's do I have? I have 1 plus 2, which is 3, plus another, which is 4, plus another, which is 5. So I've got 5 W's equals 80. Now that I have this, I can solve. Now that I have a simplified expression on this side and the total on this side, I have this equation, I can solve. What am I doing with 5 and W? I am multiplying. So what am I going to do to solve? Divide. So I'm going to divide this side by 5 and this side by 5. That's going to eliminate, leave me with W. And then 80 divided by 5. You can do this a couple ways. You can do 5 into 50 and then 5 into 30. That's what I would do. Or you can do this traditionally. I know you guys are feeling more comfortable with that. So 5 into 8 goes 1 times. 1 times 5 is 5. 3, take down 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times. So the width has to be 16. So now that I have the width, I can do the length. Because remember, it looked for the width and the length. So my width equals 16. And if my length is 2 times the width, I'm going to do 16. The length would equal 16 times 2. 16 times 2 is 32. So my length would be 32. Okay, so what you guys are doing today is that very thing. So you're going to be looking at, 1, reminding yourselves on how to find perimeter. Then you're creating an expression to represent this value. Then they've given you the answer, so you have to create an equation to match that and solve. Okay? Then down here it's samples just like the one that I just did in notes, where you're doing 3 times the width for the length, and then you have to find the width and the length. Okay, so it's a lot of those types of problems, just some practice on that. There's only 3 of those. Once again, I'm not expecting you to be perfect at this. This is going to take a lot of practice, and I promise we'll get a lot of practice this year. If you are confused, don't forget to ask questions. That is how you learn. You need to send me messages asking questions. Also, if you will please send me an email with your favorite food, I will give you 2 points today. So if you will send me an email giving me your favorite food, proving to me that you've watched this video, I will give you 2 points.